Okay, so good day everyone and welcome to statistics, no? Foundation of Statistics in Education Research. As you can see, no, our discussion focus on statistics, particularly in educational research. No? Uh, our topic is specifically is a foundation of statistics in educational research. So when we hear the word statistics, some of us immediately think about formulas, no, computation, SPSS, Excel, no, means, standard deviation, and p-values. However, I want us to approach statistics differently. At the graduate level, no, statistics should not primarily be viewed as a collection of formulas. No, it should be viewed as a way of reasoning from evidence. No? So we collect data because we want to understand something about education, and statistics provide us with systematic methods for turning those data into evidence that can support conclusion and decision. So for MAED education student, no, or Master of Arts in Education student, think about the decisions that educational leaders make every day, which intervention should receive additional funding, why is teacher turnover increasing, or did a new leadership program improve teacher engagement, why are some schools uh, or why are some schools better than others, no? So for our mathematics, no, your question may involve mathematics achievement, mathematical anxiety, problem solving ability, no, instructional strategies, misconception, or technology assisted mathematics instruction. So in both MAED EM and MAED math, no, our journey is essentially the same from data, no, to evidence to educational decision. Okay? So as what we have here, from data to evidence to educational decisions. Now, before discussing statistical procedures, we need to understand where this presentation is taking us. No? By the end of our discussion, we should be able, no, to explain both the role and at the same time, no, limitation of statistic, no, distinguish population from samples and parameters from statistics, no, classify variables according to their measurable characteristics, understand descriptive and inferential procedures, and critically evaluate statistical findings. So you notice, no, that our objective is not simply a student will know how to calculate statistics, as what we have here, no, at the master's level, that would be insufficient. No, I expect you to ask three questions whenever you encountered statistical evidence. Number one, what educational claim is being made? Number two, what do the data actually show? And number three, what conclusion is warranted from those data? So let's say, for example, if a study reports that a new mathematics intervention produced a statistically significant improvement, don't immediately conclude that the intervention is effective. Ask yourself, no, how large was the improvement? How were the participants selected? Was there a comparison group? Were the groups comparable initially? And statistics become valuable when accompanied by critical thinking. Wait lang, kunin ko. Ano ba? Hindi ko napansin magsulat na siya. Okay. So to continue our discussion, statistic matters, no, because of educational institution continuously generate data. So we have grades, attendance records, assessment results, enrollment statistics, retention rate, faculty evaluation, student satisfaction surveys, completion rates, and many other forms of information. Statistics help us transform those observations into interpretable evidence that can inform instruction programs, policies, resource allocation, and institutional improvement. Let's say, for example, an educational manager might observe the enrollment decrease from 5,000 to 4,500 students. Statistics can help determine whether that decline is part of continuing trend and whether it is concentrated in a particular programs or student groups. Similarly, a uh, a mathematics teacher, no, might notice that many students perform poorly in algebra. No? So instead of saying, my student are weak in algebra, statistical analysis might reveal that performance is particularly low in factoring, but relatively strong in linear equations. That is much more useful because it points toward a specific instructional response. The statistical cycle, no, or research cycle. A very important principle on this presentation is that statistical analysis begins before we open SPSS or any other software. The presentation outlined a sequence, no? Define the education problem or educational problem, identify the construct and variables, select the design and sample, prepare and describe the data, choose appropriate analysis, interpret statistical and practical significance, and communicate conclusions and limitation. Suppose an MAED, educational management researcher, wants to investigate teacher burnout. So we should not immediately ask, what statistical test should I use? First, ask, what exactly is the research problem? No, how will burnout be measured? How or who are the teachers of interest? And how will they be sampled? Only after answering these questions, no, can we determine an appropriate statistical analysis. The same applies to MAED mathematics. No? If you want to compare inquiry-based and traditional mathematics instruction, your design determines the analysis, not the other way around. Okay? At this point, no, we need a common statistical vocabulary. A population is the complete group to which we hope to generalize our findings, while a sample is the subset we actually observe. A parameter describes a population numerically, while a statistic describes a sample. A variable is a characteristic that can differ across cases, and a case or observation is the unit from which data are obtained. So you could try to imagine that there are 2,000 mathematics teachers in a school division and we survey 300. So the 2,000 constitute our population. The 300 are our sample. No? If the true average teaching experience of all 2,000 teachers were known, the average would be a parameter. So the average calculated from our 300 respondent is a statistics. So this distinction matters because much of inferential statistics involves using sample statistics to learn about an unknown population parameters. Variables are central to educational research because research questions usually concern differences or relationship among variables. This presentation identifies independent or predictor variables, dependent or outcome variables, control variables, moderators, mediators, and distinct between categorical and quantitative variables. Let's say, for example, suppose an MAED math researcher examine whether inquiry-based instruction influences mathematics achievement. So instructional strategy might be the predictor, while achievement is the outcome. But perhaps prior mathematics ability also affects achievement. So we might include prior achievement as a covariate. In educational management, perhaps leadership styles predict teacher commitment, but years of service changes the strength of that relationship. So years of service could function as a moderator. Graduate research requires us to understand not merely the names of our variables, but their conceptual rules within the study. Level of measurement, no? The four traditional levels of measurement are nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Nominal data represent categories without inherent ranking, no? Ordinal data have meaningful order. Interval data have equal units without a meaningful absolute zero. And ratio data have equal units and a meaningful zero. So the presentation correctly emphasizes that researchers should examine the actual measurement properties rather than simply attaching labels to variables. Okay, sorry with the commercial, no? Okay. So again, as I mentioned earlier, no, about the levels of measurement. For instance, no, let's say for example, we have a school type, di ba, public or private. That is nominal. Class rank is ordinal because first, second, and third have a meaningful order. Age is typically ratio because zero has a meaningful interpretation. And ratios can be meaningful. So this become important because measurement influences statistical choice. We should not perform a statistical procedure simply because SPSS allows us to click it. Okay? Okay. Now, statistics can broadly be divided into descriptive and inferential statistics. When we say descriptive statistics, it summarizes, no, or summarize the data we actually observe through frequencies, percentages, means, median, standard deviation in graphs. So, in the other hand, inferential statistics use sample evidence for estimation, comparison, prediction, or generalization through procedures such as confidence intervals, meron tayong t-test, ANOVA, correlations, regression, and chi-square. Example, no? Suppose we have or we survey 300 teachers saying that their average job satisfaction score is 4.1. And this is an example of a descriptive. But if we use those 300 teachers to estimate the job satisfaction of all teachers in the division or test with their public and private school teachers deeper, we move into inferential statistics. No? Remember, however, that inference depends on quality of the design and sampling. Sophisticated statistics cannot compensate for fundamentally weak research design. Okay? Before performing complicated analysis, we should look at our data. So the presentation recommends frequency tables, bar charts, histogram, box plots, and scatter plots depending on the question and syempre depende rin sa type ng iyong data. Okay? Let's say for example, if an educational manager is studying teacher turnover by department, a bar chart may quickly show whether turnover is concentrated. For a mathematics researcher, examining examination score, a histogram can show whether the distribution is appropriately symmetrical or skewed. So, a scatter plot could show whether mathematics anxiety appears related to achievement. And the principle is simple, my beloved student. Choose a graph because it helps answer a research question, not merely because it looks attractive. Okay? Kasi minsan ganun eh. Mas magandang tingnan to, ito pipiliin ko. No, hindi ganun ang paggamit ng ating mga table and graphs. Now, the three familiar measures of central tendency are the mean, median, and mode. So the mean is the arithmetic average. The median is the middle ordered value, and the mode is the most frequently occurring observation. Importantly, this presentation reminds us that the appropriate measure depends on the distribution, measurement scale, and research purpose. Suppose 5 schools have enrollment figures of, let's say, 5 school yon. First, 400. Second school, 450. Next school, 500. Next school, 550. And the other one is 5,000. So, the unusual large school will pull the mean upward, making it less representative of the typical school. The median may be more informative. Therefore, when your thesis reports a mean, do not report it mechanically. Ask whether that mean actually represent the data meaningfully. Okay? Now, measures of variability. Averages alone can sometimes be misleading, which is why we also need measures of variability. The slide introduces the range, interquartile range, variance, and standard deviation, and emphasizes that groups with identical means can have very different levels of consistency. Example, no? Imagine, no? 2 mathematics classes both have an average examination score of 85. Let's say in class A, nearly score range from 60 to 100. Or, sorry, let's say class A, or class A, nearly everyone score between 82 and 88. In class B, score range from 60 to 100. Their means are identical, but their learning situation are clearly different. For educational leaders, variability can reveal inequalities that averages conceal. So a school division might have a respectable average performance while simultaneously containing extremely high and low performing schools. A distribution tells us how observation are spread across possible values. So distribution may be symmetrical, positively skewed, or negatively skewed. And they may contain outliers. So the presentation also cautious us that normality is an approximation rather than a condition that every educational variable must satisfy perfectly. Okay, let's say for example, suppose most of students score between 70 and 90, but one student scored 20. Should we delete that score? Not immediately. Perhaps it is an encoding error, but perhaps the student genuinely performed poorly. That case may actually tell us something important about learning difficulty or inequity. Outliers should be investigated, not automatically eliminated. Okay, clear? Okay. Standard scores and the normal model. The C-scores tell us how many standard deviation and observation is above or below the mean. A Z-score a Z-score of 0 correspond to the mean, plus 1 indicates 1 standard deviation above the mean, and minus 1 indicates 1 standard deviation below it. Under an approximately normal model, roughly 68% of observation fall within 1 standard deviation and approximately 95% within 2. This is very useful, students, in educational assessment. Suppose 2 students take different standardized examination. Raw scores may not be directly comparable, but standardized score provide information about each student's relative position within the relevant distribution. For mathematics educators, this is particularly useful when interpreting norm reference assessment results. Sampling deserves serious attention because hindi lang yung sa forever ang may dapat mayroong serious attention. Sampling techniques is very important in educational research. No? Because, again, generalization depends more on sampling quality than sample size alone. The presentation distinguishes probability approaches such as simple random. We have systematic, stratified, and cluster sampling from non-probability approaches such as convenience, purposive, quota, and snowball sampling. Majority of the panel members always asking, what sampling techniques did you use in your proposal? There are some professor also asking, ano po ba ginamit natin? Probability sampling or non-probability sampling? Again, we need to take note that probability sampling is a simple random, systematic, stratified, and cluster sampling. When we say non-probability approaches, that is convenience sampling, purposive, quota, and snowball sampling. Suppose my educational management student wants to study teacher satisfaction throughout a division, but collect responses only from teachers in one conveniently accessible school. Even if 300 teachers respond, representation remains questionable. By contrast, stratified sampling across elementary, junior high, and senior high school might provide a stronger representation because a large bias sample remains biased. Size alone does not guarantee representativeness. Okay? Now, sampling error and standard error. No? There are certain instances that you could able to see these terminologies. Even good random samples will not produce exactly identical results. Sampling errors refers to natural differences between sample estimates and population parameters, while the standard error quantifies the expected sampling variability of a statistics. So the presentation also emphasizes that larger samples generally produce smaller standard errors, but that precision is not equivalent to validity. So, this distinction is essential. You could collect data from 10,000 respondents using a systematically biased procedure and obtain a very precise estimate of the wrong value. We should therefore distinguish between precision, how narrowly something is estimated, and validity, whether our procedure is actually producing a defensible estimate. Probability provides the logical foundation of inferential statistics because it ranges from 0 to 1 and helps us reason about uncertainty under a specified condition. Events may be independent or dependent, and conditional probability asks about the probability of one event given another. I just want to reiterate, no? In educational research, we rarely know things with absolute certainty. Instead, we ask how compatible our observed evidence is with particular statistical models. This is an important change in mindset because statistics does not eliminate uncertainty. Rather, statistics help us describe and reason about uncertainty systematically. Okay, so we may proceed. No? Again, as I mentioned earlier, no, probability provides the logical foundation of inferential statistics. No? It ranges from 0 to 1 and help us reason about uncertainty under a specified condition. So, in educational research, no, we rarely know things with absolute certainty. Instead, we ask how compatible our observed evidence is with particular statistical model. So, this is an important change in mindset. No? Statistics does not eliminate uncertainty. Rather, statistics helps us describe and reason about uncertainty systematically. A point estimate gives us a single best estimate from our sample. No? While a confidence interval gives us range of plausible parameter, values under the assumptions of the method. Narrower intervals generally indicate greater precision. So, it emphasizes interpreting the magnitude and educational meaning of an interval rather than looking only at whether it crosses a null value. Suppose an intervention improves mathematics score by an estimated 6 points with a 95% confidence interval from from 3 to 9 points. That is far more informative than merely saying the result was statistically significant. We know that the estimated improvement in something about its precision. Okay. Hypothesis testing begins with the null hypothesis, usually representing no difference or no association, and an alternative hypothesis representing a departure from that position. You as researchers establish a significance level and calculate a p-value, but the presentation importantly warns that the p-value is not the probability that the null hypothesis is true. This is one of the most common misunderstanding. In graduate thesis, no, when P is equal to 0.03, it means to say that 3%, we should not say there is only a 3% probability that the null hypothesis is true. That is not what the P value means, no? And even when P is less than 0.5, 0.05, we still need to consider effect size, confidence interval, research design, assumptions, and educational relevance. I believe you have heard the word type 1, type 2 error, and power. Every statistical decision contains the possibility of error. So a type 1 error is a false positive. We reject a true null hypothesis. A type 2 error is a false negative. We fail to reject a false non-null hypothesis. A statistical power is presented as 1 minus and describe the probability of detecting an effect of specialized size when it actually exists. Think of evaluating new mathematics program. A type 1 error could lead us to conclude that the program works when it actually does not. A type 2 error could cause us to abandon a genuinely effective program because our study failed to detect its effect. Both errors have educational consequences, which is why sample size planning and research design matter. The graduate level, we need to move beyond simply declaring results significant or not significant. Effect size tell us the magnitude of a difference or relationship. Example presented here include coherence D, correlation R, eta squared, odds ratios, and R squared. Imagine that a study involving thousands of students produced a statistically significant improvement of only 0.3 points on a 100-point examination. Is that educationally meaningful? Perhaps not. Di po ba? Conversely, a modest effect applied across an entire school system might have important consequences. So, statistical significance asks whether evidence is inconsistent with a null model. Practical significance asks whether the magnitude matters in a real educational setting. Correlation and association. Correlation examines relationship among variables. Person R's summarizes linear association between quantitative variables, while Spearman correlation can be useful of ranks or monotonic relationship. Correlation range from -1 to +1, indicating direction and strength. Most importantly, association is not equivalent to causation. Suppose mathematics anxiety is negatively correlated with mathematics achievement. Students with greater anxiety tend to have lower achievement. Can we ask anxiety causes poor achievement? Not from correlation alone. Perhaps poor achievement increases anxiety. Perhaps both influence one another. Or perhaps another factor affects both. Casual conclusion require strong research design. Educational research frequently compare groups, no? An independent sample t-test compares to independent group means, no? A paired sample t-test compares related observation. One-way ANOVA compares means across 3 or more groups, and factorial ANOVA allows examination of multiple factors and interaction. So, for MAED mathematics, perhaps we compare mathematics achievement under traditional and inquiry-based instruction. For MAED educational management, perhaps we compare organizational commitment among teachers from 3 categories of schools. So, the important principle here is that the method should follow the research design. Not every variable is numerical. So, educational researchers frequently work with categorical data such as school type, employment status, teaching modality, specialization, or kaya naman completion status. Chi-square procedures allow us to examine categorical distribution and association. This topic distinguishes goodness of fit from the chi-square test to independence and recommend reporting an effect size measure such as Cramer's V. Let's say, for example, we might ask whether preferred teaching modality is associated with age groups or whether mathematics proficiency category is associated with instructional approach. So in this situation, counts and percentages become important. Again, statistical significance alone is insufficient. We should describe the actual pattern. Regression allows us to examine how one or more predictors relate to an outcome. So simple regression involves one predictor, while multiple regression includes several predictors. The regression coefficient indicate expected changes associated with predictors, while other included predictors are held constant and R squared. Summarizes the proportion of outcome variation explained by the model. Let's say, for example, imagine, predicting teacher job satisfaction using leadership support, workload, professional development, and years of services, no? For MAED mathematics, we might predict mathematics achievement using prior achievement, mathematics anxiety, study habits, and instructional strategy. But remember, a predictor in regression is not automatically a cause. Clear po tayo dyan. Before trusting statistical output, researchers should examine data accuracy, missing data, outliers, independence, linearity, homoscedasticity, and other assumptions relevant to the method. The this topic appropriately emphasizes that assumptions should be examined, dapat justified and reported rather than mechanically checked. Suppose SPSS tells you that one respondent is 350 years old. We do not need an advanced statistical test to know that something is wrong. Data screening should occur before inferential analysis. Likewise, outliers should not automatically be deleted simply because removing them improves the result. Every analytical decision needs a defensible rationale. So this presentation present one of the most important principles in the entire presentation. Statistical sophistication cannot rescue poor measurement. Reliability concern consistency or precision, while validity concern the evidence supporting the interpretation and use of scores. Imagine developing a questionnaire supposedly measuring transformational leaders when the items actually measure only general satisfaction with the principal. Even with 1,000 respondents in advanced regression analysis, the fundamental measurement problem remains. Graduate researchers therefore need to report instrument sources, adaptations, scoring procedures, pilot testing, and relevant reliability and validity evidence. Now we apply this principle especially to MAED educational management. No? The presentation proposed evaluating whether leadership training improved teacher engagement across participating schools. Relevant consideration include baseline equivalence, clustering within schools, attrition, implementation fidelity, descriptive means, and standard deviation, and an inferential approach appropriate to design. Imagine the teacher engagement increase after leadership training. Before declaring the program successful, you need to ask whether engagement was already increasing before the intervention, whether all schools implemented the training similarly, and whether teachers who drop out differed from those who remained. Educational management research ultimately connects statistical findings to feasibility, equity, implementation, and institutional decision-making. For mathematics education or MAED, no? This slide consider whether inquiry-based instruction improves mathematical problem-solving achievement. So it recommends considering pre-test and post-test result, learner characteristics, implementation quality, score distribution, gain comparison, ANCOVA, or regression, and possibly multi-level approaches depending on the design. However, mathematics education research should go beyond asking whether the average score increased, which student benefited most, were misconception reduced, did variability decrease or increase, where struggling learners help, did high-performing students benefit differently. Statistical evidence become educationally meaningful when connected to the actual processes of mathematics teaching and learning. Excuse. Okay. Choosing the right statistical technique. One of the question I frequently hear from graduate student is, Doc, what statistical treatment should I use? My always response should always begin with another question. What is your research question? So, this slide offers a useful decision structure based on whether we are describing, comparing, relating, or predicting, and whether the outcomes are categorical, quantitative, independent, paired, or clustered. If you are describing one categorical variable, frequencies and percentage may be sufficient. If you are comparing two independent means, an independent t-test or suitable alternative may apply. Three or more means may suggest ANOVA or regression. Relationship among quantitative variables may suggest correlation or regression, while categorical association may call for chi-square or related models. Please, student, never select the test first and construct the research question afterward. Clear po tayo dyan. Software produces numbers, but researchers produce interpretations. This slide recommends checking sample size and missing cases first, examining descriptive statistics before inferential results, identifying estimates, uncertainty, test statistics, degrees of freedom, p-values in effect sizes, and verifying assumptions and model design alignment. So, when we using SPSS, gives you 20 tables, do not simply search for the column labeled SIG and copy the values into chapter 4. What you're going to do, ask what those numbers mean. A good master's level researcher should eventually be able to explain the statistical result to a school principal, mathematics teachers, parent, or policy maker without requiring them to read the SPSS output. So, this slide identifies recurring problems in graduate research. Choosing familiar rather than appropriate tests. Confusing Likert items with scales, reporting only p-values, treating non-significance as proof of no effect, performing excessive tests without considering multiplicity, deleting inconvenient observation, and making casual claims from correlational evidence. One particularly common mistake is writing. Lagi ko nakikita to. There is no relationship because P is greater than 0.05. Pero siguro, more accurately, the study did not provide sufficient evidence to reject the specified null hypothesis under the chosen procedure. That is different from proving that absolutely no relationship exists. Graduate level writing requires this kind of precision. Statistics is also an ethical responsibility. Researchers should not manipulate analysis merely to obtain significance. Sometimes, researchers hide inconvenient findings. Sometimes, researchers remove observation without explanation or present exploratory analysis as if they were planned from the beginning. Confidentiality is especially important when reporting results from small schools or an identifiable subgroup. Suppose your hypothesis predicts a positive relationship, but the analysis shows no meaningful association. That is still a legitimate research finding. Your responsibility is not to manufacture support for your hypothesis. Student, your responsibility is to report faithfully what the evidence shows and acknowledge what remains uncertain. A strong result paragraph should identify what was analyzed, describe the sample and relevant descriptive statistics, report the inferential statistic with degrees of freedom and p-value where appropriate, and include effect size and confidence interval when available. Broader casual, or theoretical interpretation should not be inserted into the result section unless supported by the design. Those implications are generally developed in the discussion. So, instead of simply writing, di ba kadalasan mababasa mo, there was a significant difference. P is equal to 0.02. Provide the group means and standard deviation, the estimated difference, test statistics, degrees of freedom, p-value, confidence interval, and effect size were appropriate. Then, tell the reader what the statistical evidence means in relation to the research question. Okay? So, now, I have here asked to integrate everything through a practical case. No? So, a distinct introduces a coaching program in 12 schools and compares mathematics achievement. We must identify the unit of analysis, determine outcomes, predictors, and covariates. Select descriptive displays, account for clustering and baseline differences, and decide what evidence should or would support to claim or a claim of educational importance. The case is particularly valuable because it connects educational management and mathematics discussion. The mathematics specialist might focus on achievement, instructional improvement, and learner differences, while the educational manager might focus on implementation, school level variation, teacher coaching, and scalability. Both are looking at the same intervention from different professional perspectives, demonstrating why interdisciplinary statistical literacy is so valuable. So, we are now come into our key takeaways. It summarizes the central philosophy of the entire presentation. We begin with the educational question and research design rather than the statistical test. Ano po? Describe the data before making inferences. Take uncertainty, variability, and measurement seriously. You need to report magnitude and precision rather than relying on a statistical significance. You need also to match the method to the structure of the data and interpret findings using substantive, methodological, and ethical judgment. If you remember only one lesson from our discussion, remember this, student. The most complicated statistical method is not necessarily the best method. The best analysis is the one that appropriately answers the research question using the available evidence and allows the researcher to make a defensible conclusion without claiming more than the data support. Okay? So, okay, so I think no, that's it for the topic number 1, no? Before I end, no? Before I end the topic number 1, okay. Before I end, no? The foundation of statistics in educational research emphasizes that statistics is not simply about formulas, computation, or software outputs. No, it is a discipline process of transforming educational data into meaningful evidence. So both MAED EM and MAED Math education, the key lesson is to begin with a clear research problem, identify appropriate variables and measurement levels, select a sound sampling strategy, describe the data properly, and then choose statistical techniques that match the research design. Concepts such as central tendency, variability, distribution, sampling errors, confidence intervals, hypothesis testing, effect size, correlation, regression, and statistical assumption all work together to help you make conclusions that are accurate, transparent, and educationally relevant. More importantly, graduate researchers must go beyond asking whether a result is statistically significant. So, they should also consider the magnitude of the effect, ano pa ba? Precision of estimates, ethical reporting, and limitation of the study. For educational management, this means using statistical evidence to support decision on leadership, programs, policies, resources, and institutional improvement. For mathematics education, it means using data to understand achievement, instructional design strategies, learner differences, misconception, and intervention effectiveness. So, the value of statistics lies not in producing more numbers, but in helping educators move from data to evidence and from evidence to better and more responsible educational decisions. Okay, so I think that's it for topic number 1.